a lot of people who, found the little tunnels, who found the little skulls.
Hmm.
Uh, I have, when I was in eastern Tennessee, I was on private land where the little people of a different kind, they're not Cherokee, they're a different kind of little people, live, and I could see evidence of them, but no, I've never ever seen them myself.
I haven't
Uh,
seen one
The most,
either.
the most recent story I have comes from a young Cherokee woman, and she and her family have a small trailer that they keep way up in a remote section of the Cherokee Reservation, and the family, or the I'll say the extended family, uses that as a base. So when they go out there for picnics, they have a place for the restrooms and they have a place to cook the food. Well, this girl was, when she was younger, all the kids were playing hide and go seek. Well, she went to hide in the shower in the little trailer, and when she pulled back the little curtain, there was a little person with a big grin on his face just smiling at her.
Oh
So,
my.
so, but he was friendly.
Thank goodness.
But she did go running to her daddy immediately. But we do get reports that there are still little people in the remote sections. And when I was out in, again, Evelyn Gordon and I made a trip out to South Dakota this past October and came back with uh, two little people stories. So they had them out on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota and also on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. And the reservations there are much more destitute and are quite different than what you see here in Cherokee, where they
Which are
have been.
not that affluent in their own right.
I'm sorry.
Which are not that affluent in their own right.
Right, but they the Cherokee have done very well since in comparison,
Yes.
especially since they benefit from Harris Casino and perhaps some of your husband's money.
Lots of my husband's money. But that being said, we are up at our top of the hour news break, and I am going to take us out for this will be a 5 minute break, so it's a great time to get a beverage or stretch your legs or leg and just enjoy. We'll be back.
NPR podcasts are now available on every platform. Check out all our shows at npr.org/podcasts. That's npr.org/podcasts.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. As the partial federal government shutdown continues and Democrats and Republicans seem no closer to ending it, federal workers say the impact has reached a crisis point. Larry Hirsch is a housing and urban development employee and union official for federal workers.
Federal employees need help. They need food. They need rent. They're making tough choices. We're going to miss another paycheck on Friday.
This weekend, President Trump offered temporary immigration protections for some immigrants in exchange for $5.7 billion to extend the border wall. Today, he lashed out at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who declined the deal, accusing her and other Democrats of putting politics ahead of security. Democrats say they want the government open first before debate on border security can take place. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is to bring Trump's proposal to the Senate floor this week. Also today, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called on Congress to immediately pass specific financial protections for federal workers who are falling behind on their bills. A rescue operation in the Mediterranean Sea has been called off. Crews had been searching for survivors of a dinghy filled with migrants that sank. Joanna Kakissis reports more than 100 migrants who left Libya last week with hopes of reaching Italy are now presumed dead.
The International Organization for Migration said the migrants departed from Libya on Thursday evening. After about 10 hours in rough winter seas, the flimsy raft sank. Only 3 migrants were rescued. The migration organization's Italy spokesman Flavio Di Giacomo says the survivors reported 120 people, mostly from West Africa, aboard the raft.
There were 10 women. One of them was a pregnant girl, and 2 children. One of them was only 2 months old.
The Italian Navy first spotted the raft and sent a helicopter to aid the 3 survivors. The Italian Navy said its staff saw bodies floating near the survivors. In all, about 200 migrants are known to have drowned so far this year trying to reach Europe. For NPR News, I'm Joanna Kakissis.
President Trump won't be among the more than 3,000 political and business elite attending the World Economic Forum's annual event in the Swiss village of Davos. Lisa Schlein reports Trump and his cabinet are staying home because of the shutdown.
Forum participants worry rising protectionism is undercutting free trade and world economic growth. They're concerned about the impact of the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. That refers to rapid technological breakthroughs in fields such as artificial intelligence and robotics. Many fear these advances could threaten jobs and give rise to more populist movements.
Lisa Schlein reporting. The LA Rams are heading to the Super Bowl, beating the New Orleans Saints today, 26-23 in overtime. The New England Patriots are playing the Kansas City Chiefs right now, vying for the other spot. The score at last check, 7-0 Patriots in the first. This is NPR. In Los Angeles, bargaining teams for the teachers' union and school district spent the day behind closed doors, trying to negotiate the end of the strike that's affecting hundreds of thousands of students. More than 30,000 teachers walked off the job last Monday over pay, class size, and the number of support staff. Mayor Eric Garcetti, whose office is mediating the talks, says the negotiations were productive, but no other details are known because of a news blackout. Teachers vowed to return to the picket line Tuesday. Schools are closed tomorrow in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. A major winter storm has grounded flights, delayed trains, and knocked out power in some parts of the Midwest and New England. NPR's Shannon Van Zandt has more.
The storm is barreling into New England and bringing snow, freezing rain, and Arctic temperatures. Meteorologist Rich Otto says the ice and wind will likely result in more power outages in the Northeast.
You combine the ice and the snow with what's expected to come later this evening and tonight, which is a strong push of cold air and strong winds with gusts anywhere from 20 to 40 miles an hour, locally higher along the coast, and that's going to likely generate a lot of power outages.
The storm has already knocked out electricity for thousands of customers. Temperatures are expected to drop to 35 degrees below zero in Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. Shannon Van Zandt, NPR News.
Asia markets are trading higher at this hour. The Asia Dow is up about 0.3%. The Nikkei in Japan also trading higher. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama, and this is Fate Mag Radio. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined tonight by Mary A. Joyce, who is brilliant. She is an author. She is a researcher. She is someone who is as fascinated by anomalous subjects as I am, if not more so. And she has a lot of experience with a great background to be able to do the work that goes into bringing you all the information that you can find at www.cashiersovercashiers.com. CASHIERS. And Mary, thank you so much for your patience. We have gotten down to 5 minutes after the hour and ready to rock this second one.
Okay, go for it.
Well, I am sitting here thinking about one of the things you and I talked about when I very first met you, which was the secret military bases in different locations, but primarily under the Cherokee National Forest. And you have found out so much more in the intervening years. I can't believe all this stuff is actually going on.
Science fiction is proving to be rare. I mean, not so rare. It seems like it's all around us. It seems to be more real than real.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes. And I've done a book. It's called Underground Military Bases Hidden in North Carolina Mountains. And it's about 5 secret military bases here in the mountains of western North Carolina. And when you and I were talking before, we were talking about the one beneath the Smoky Mountain National Park because people all across the country are familiar with that and where it is. But then you and I went a little bit further with it. And Phyllis Galday, who is the owner now of Fate magazine, moved here to North Carolina. I don't know exactly how recently, but within the last year or two at the most. And until I talked to her, she did not know that she had moved very close to one of these bases. and she wanted us to, elaborate a bit about it, and which we can do if that's what you'd like to do. Sugarloaf Mountain is near Chimney Rock State Park. It's near Hendersonville and Lake Lure, or between those two. And it's one of those that's really very multifaceted when it comes to experiences that happen there. We, again, Evelyn Gordon, who is the co-founder of the website, she and I went to the top of Sugarloaf Mountain in 2010 to visit a woman who lives up there. And this woman has been going to that mountaintop with her family since 1969 and has a wealth of experiences that she has reported on. And one of the things that happened was one night there were all these helicopters that were dropping heavy earth-moving equipment at the top of the mountain, which is just above where they are. And there were floodlights on. There was all sorts of activity. And the next morning, she and her husband hiked up there to see what in the world had been going on. And the whole top of the mountain in that section had been covered with fresh sod. So something was being constructed there. And while she was telling us this, we are sitting at her dining room table, and where I was seated, I could look out through her front window and see the single lane road that goes by her house. And a government white vehicle came by real slowly and turned around and came back real slowly. And all three of us felt like they knew what we were talking about, but we don't know if that's the case or not. And she has seen different kinds of spaceships up there. The most typical kind would be the saucer-shaped one, but she's also seen these really small ones that she reported seeing one that was about 18 inches in diameter. It had lights above and below what would be the equator of this ball, and it was on spindly legs. And of course, she felt like this was a remote vehicle that was being used by the ETs. And then she reported experiences with two kinds of ETs. And one would be like the Greys, and she called them the mischief makers. And then there were the ones that were very, very spiritual. And to be a little bit more positive and put the emphasis there, they inspired her to develop and build a giant globe of the earth. And it was, she had two sizes of it. And all the countries that were at peace had lights glowing from them on this global map. Those that were in war were in darkness, and those that were having ongoing conflicts were flashing red lights. The smaller version of this, which was about 18 inches, was on display at the United Nations for a number of years. And the larger one, and I don't remember the dimensions right now, maybe 6-8 feet, something like that, was built to be on display at in Bethlehem. And she went with a group of Anglicans and met Arafat at that time, and at the last minute they decided that her globe was a little bit too controversial, and it didn't get placed in Bethlehem at the Peace Center. But that was an idea that was given to her by the more spiritual ETs, and I find that fascinating. And it's kind of nice to think about something like that instead of just the ETs that like to harass people.
I think that's a very pleasant thing, too, because, everybody says that they're seeking peace. And maybe by having it displayed in such a manner, that wouldn't be controversial. It would give you a goal to be one of the ones that were radiating peace.
Right. Now, when it failed to be displayed in Bethlehem, she did get a trailer, and she went on the road with it for a couple of years. So she did her best to follow through on the instructions that she was inspired to do by what I call the very spiritual ETs. But this